Hello and welcome, I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the United States has offered a potential new format for peace talks between Ukraine and Russia, with American and European envoys participating in the negotiations. He has said that he will take up the matter with Ukraine's delegation chief Umerov. The United States President Donald Trump has said his plans of visiting Florida, where the talks on Ukraine peace deal will be taking place. Officials reportedly suggest the Bondi Beach attackers visited the southern island of Mindanao in Philippines earlier and stayed there briefly for a month. One of the shooters also visited a gun store during their stay. Thousands of long-awaited Epstein files has been released. U.S. Justice Department published first batch of documents featuring Bill Clinton and Michael Jackson. Files show little mention of Trump. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, U.S. strikes in Syria have killed at least 5 Daesh members. This comes as Washington retaliated for a December 13th attack in Palmyra that killed 2 U.S. soldiers and 1 U.S. civilian. Tens of thousands of mourners from Bangladesh, including interim government leader, are attending the funeral of a slain youth leader and election candidate Sharif Osman Hadi, who was shot dead by a masked assailant in Dhaka last week. Benin has placed former defense minister and prominent opposition political candidate Azanain in pre-trial detention. This comes as part of an investigation into the country's failed coup attempt. Document shows next year's China unit switches to local firms for wafer supplies. This is after the Dutch firm stopped supplying raw materials after a corporate dispute. Now we start this hour with U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to visit Florida this week ahead of a new round of talks on Ukraine. Trump has said that the visit will involve a series of meetings with insurance companies to try to reduce costs significantly. He has added that if those efforts fail, the government would pay citizens directly, allowing them to purchase their own health care. Meanwhile, high-level diplomatic talks on Ukraine are set to take place in Miami this weekend. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner will meet with Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian president's economic cooperation representative. Ukrainian and European delegations, including national security advisors from Germany, France, and the UK, will hold parallel discussions with U.S. officials. Russian sources confirmed that Dmitriev will not meet directly with Ukrainian or European representatives, reflecting ongoing tensions. The talks follow President Vladimir Putin's pledge to continue Russia's military campaign. Despite growing international pressure, the United States continues to push a peace plan for Ukraine, including security guarantees, though territorial concessions remain a major sticking point in the peace negotiations. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Joins us live from U.S. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at the health insurance, or the what Trump is trying to achieve ahead of the talks for Ukraine, what do you think he's trying to achieve? And when he says the government would pay citizens directly, allowing them to purchase their own health care, what is he suggesting?
Well, thanks very much for having me. In order to have peace, you have
Yes,
to wage it just like war. And
yes.
so you have to have a strategy, you have to have partners, and you have to have principles. Unfortunately, thus far, President Trump has not shown his willingness to do that and just views it as another real estate deal. The combination of health care with the talks on peace in Ukraine shows that there is a difficulty in the United States politically for the president. He's been known as Teflon Don in the past, that everything slides off him. Well, not everything is not sliding off anymore. Affordability and health care are major domestic issues. So it's all well and good for him to say that he should have the Nobel Peace Prize by bringing peace to Ukraine, and one hopes that he will. But he has to attend to a very precipitous increase in health care costs, which will be occasioned by the end of the subsidies for Obamacare. Now, his proposal is, it sounds good, well, it's just give the money directly to the people, but that doesn't provide insurance. You can provide some payments that go into some sort of individual health care, but when a catastrophic illness or injury occurs, you have to have some form of insurance. So what he's trying to do is to kill two birds with one stone, if you will, in terms of this trip. One, he's going to talk about health care, and two, he's going to try to resolve the peace problem in regard to Ukraine. I think it's an unfortunate juxtaposition. Really, what he needs to do is to concentrate on one and then concentrate on the other. In regard to the talks in regard to Ukraine, it's encouraging that there is evidently some European representation there this time. The problem has been in terms of having strategy and partners. There haven't been partners that the present administration is willing to recognize. They basically thrown Europe under the bus when when the Europeans have the major stake in bringing peace, not just in terms of a real estate transaction, but long-term peace with security guarantees, rebuilding provisions, and something which will stand the test of time. So yes, this is one more step, and it is good that the president continues to have some interest in it. One wonders, though, whether or not with his mercurial up and down approach, this interest will continue to a real ceasefire and a real peace, as opposed to something which allows him just to go on and claim some sort of immediate victory.
Yes, 100%. And I really like all your examples always, but it's especially the Teflon one, which I thought was really funny. And now looking at the delegations that are supposed to be attending the talks for Ukraine and Russia's peace and ceasefire. Looking at the delegation, it's like U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and then from Russian side, Kirill Dmitriev, who is a Russian President's Economic Cooperation representative, is joining. All of them are not a defense minister, not peace negotiators. They are more. They have more experience with money or business, I may say. So why do you think this alignment of these delegations, how do you think this changes how the negotiations go moving forward? And what are the risks and chances of these expats or these particular individuals in the negotiating table for such a complicated a historical issue end this war?
Well, as a former Assistant Secretary of Commerce, I, of course, am completely convinced that economic and strategic matters exist in the same reality, and it's not the case that you just have strategic on one side and economic on the other. On the other hand, it is very plain that neither Mr. Witkoff nor Mr. Kushner have diplomatic experience. They do not have experience in regard to the necessities of a strategic approach with partners and principles. Theirs is the same orientation as President Trump, and that is a real estate deal. And I have no doubt that President Trump has encouraged the Russians to have an economic minister there because he likes to make deals and he wants to see where not only the Trump family is going in terms of its endeavors in regard to Russia, but overall how he can see that there is economic benefit. Unfortunately, this gets it backwards. What you have to have is the strategic approach to bringing peace before you can really have an economic interchange which solidifies that. You're not going to get investment in Ukraine. You're not going to get people wanting to trade unless there's security. It's just plain simple human nature. You don't want to get shot at when you're trying to do business. So I think that this is a bit backwards. It shows again, though, that the mechanisms on the United States side, which have largely kept the peace for some 80 years, that is having a State Department, a National Security Council, what Trump would refer to as the deep state, but many refer to as having expertise. This approach has been abandoned in favor of real estate folks like Mr. Witkoff.
Yes, very enlightening. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic. Now, in a new defense strategic development, Ukraine and Portugal has agreed on a joint production of Ukrainian sea drones. Alexander Kamyshin, the Ukrainian president's aide, has shared a brief post on X, which says that Ukraine's unmanned surface vehicles have proven to be a strong line of deterrence against Russian warships and submarines. And now, by means of this collaboration, Ukraine would help Portugal defend Europe, as Portugal's entire coastline faces the North Atlantic Ocean and guards key maritime approaches into Europe. This comes as reports of Russia attacking the southern Ukrainian port of Pivdeniye emerge. According to Ukrainian officials, Russia has ramped up its strikes on the Odessa region, which is located along the Black Sea and hosts several ports that are critical to Ukraine's foreign aid and fuel supplies operations. Now, for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for staying with us. You know, it's ironic that you just perfectly stated about the economic and strategic approach to bringing peace, which goes hand in hand, and usually strategic approach comes first, which seems like the case between Ukraine and Portugal. So how symbolic this is, and the new defense strategic development between Ukraine and Portugal, and why Portugal and why now?
Well, thanks for allowing me to comment on this. It seems to me this illustrates the point that I was making earlier, that you have to have partners and a strategy in regard to bringing a lasting peace. And the Europeans are the ones who are on the ground and most closely affected. Unfortunately, the United States has backed away from the position of leader of the free world. And it's America first and what's in it for me now. I believe that President Zelensky and Ukraine recognize what has happened with the United States. They know they have to have the United States because the United States has arms which the rest of the world does not have. On the other hand, they know that they have to look for other partners other than the U.S., and of course they turn to Ukraine. Portugal, as you point out, has a long seacoast on the Atlantic, and I believe the teaming with Portugal is in response to what Putin and Russia have done in having maritime drones. You may recall that just a month or so ago, Putin was talking about his breakthrough in atomic nuclear powered drones to operate in the maritime domain. So Portugal, while you don't usually think of it as a strategic partner, is in a very strategic location and is very much interested in the maritime aspect as opposed to the landborne and land-oriented drones. So this is another indication that Ukraine, Zelensky are looking for partners who will understand the strategic nature of the Russian invasion and war on its neighbor Ukraine. The United States, under President Trump, with the latest national security strategy, has shown that it doesn't really value Europe. In fact, the whole America First approach has been a throwback to the 1930s, in which there were those who said that the United States should not be involved with Europe in fighting Nazism. So this is all of a piece here, and it's just the latest development which has been brought on by the Trump administration's abdication of the U.S. position as a leader of the free world.
Thank you very much for laying it out there. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Raymond Vickery for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to Asia. Palestinian Ambassador to Russia Abdel Hafiz Nofal has said that Indonesia and Italy have agreed to join international stabilization forces in Gaza, has warned that the situation is stagnant, delaying the full opening of border crossings, humanitarian aid, and the withdrawal of Israeli troops. The move comes under U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan, which includes the deployment of multinational forces and temporary administration. Phase 2 of the plan, expected before December 25th, aims to start troop withdrawal and full implementation of the ceasefire. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Ali Muhammad Bushbak. He's a Middle East Affairs researcher, joins us live from Cairo. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, what is the reality on the ground? Do you think it is achievable to have all these countries join forces in Gaza?
First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Usama, I guess that deployment the international stabilization forces is one of the controversial issue we're facing the second phase of the negotiation between Hamas and Israel, which expected to deploy in this coming January, while up to now there is no one country except Italy and Indonesia have been showing their willingness, as well as Turkey. It's periodically mentioned that willingness to participate in this international force stabilization in Gaza, while Israel have been always objected their proposal and their willingness and their accepting. So also it was expected a Muslim and Arabic forces to deploy in Gaza and state international stabilization force, but up to now also Egypt, it's not showing its willingness, and they're considered instead of deploy the international forces or Muslim Arab forces in Gaza should be a Palestinian forces to do this mission in Gaza. Also, one of the significant issue that facing that the most of the country, like Azerbaijan, one of the moderating country, Muslim moderating country, is that disarming Hamas. It's facing them, and most of the country, like for example, Italy and Indonesia, they are putting their strict and one condition to deploy in case there is no direct contact with Hamas, and other country they put one condition: Hamas should be disarmed. This is one of the significant issue, and I guess it's facing the international stabilization, as well as I'm not sure about their rule on the ground, because there is a UNIFIL in Syria and in Lebanon, and they are monitoring the stabilization and the peace process between Lebanon and Israel. But up to now, there is abusing for the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. Up to now, have been United Nations reported more than 100,000 of Israelis violation for the ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel. Simultaneously in Gaza, up to now, yesterday night, Israel have been targeting a school in At-Tufah neighborhood, and targeting children, targeting women, targeting innocent civilians in Gaza who have been casualties in this Israeli assassination or Israeli's bombardment. Up to now, Israel's it's open its machine gun in the blue line. And killing several of civilians in Gaza, especially in south or north or any part of Gaza Strip. Up to now, the civilians have been suffering. Indonesia have been announced before her participation in international stabilization forces. It will be limited in medical and construction team. But today we are seeing a different statement from the Indonesia. What is their rule? It will be. There is no doubt Italy, one of the significant ally for Israel, and it used to supply Israel in weapon and etc. during the war in Gaza. And so we have seen several of a protest against the Italy government in Italy. So, and they are protesting against the government because it's supporting and supplying Israel in weapon during the war in Gaza. I'm wondering about the duty and the mission of this stabilization forces. It will be to save only the security of Israel, or it will be monitoring who's violating the ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. And I'm also wondering about who's much better, the humanity or just only the security of Israel. On the ground, the Palestinians are still suffering. There is no ceasefire. I'm confirming you that genocide is still continuing and ongoing on the ground, but in silent way. The media is not giving the full attention for the suffering of the desperate civilians in Gaza, the people and children and kids. They are freezing to death in Gaza. We have seen several of news about it. We have seen the storm, how it make the tent of civilians demolished and ruined after the continuous rain and after the storm. So on the ground, the humanitarian suffering is still ongoing, and several of civilians have been killed because of this harsh winter in Gaza without any shelter. And also, this stabilization forces, it will be under it will located in the area that under the Israelis control. That means they will see just only a very beautiful atmosphere from the Israeli side. Like Israel, it will use them for its benefit. Like we have seen several times, Israel used to ask the social media influencer to come visit Israel and to do a propaganda that Israel is not using the food in Gaza as a weapon and weaponizing the food and the humanitarian aid as a weapon in Gaza. Despite that, it failed because the social media, the audience, they got to know the reality on the ground. They saw that the suffering of the civilians because of the Israelis policy. I
Yes.
guess they are going to do a conference in Doha. Several of I guess 20 countries will participate in this and will negotiate about the future of Gaza. But I'm unsure you, Osama, there is
Yes.
no future for Gaza until and unless this international community
Yes.
being silent on the Israelis' violation on the ground.
Mr.
Civilians are
Bushback.
desperate. Yeah,
Yes,
Osama.
maybe Mr. Bushback, thank you for highlighting that and also, telling us always the reality on the ground of Gaza and their people. Thank you very much. That I would like to thank Mr. Ali Muhammad Bushback for joining us from Cairo and sharing that insight. Now we move on to U.S. A mortgage fraud probe of a Democratic congressman began last month. This came after William Pulte, the Republican head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, referred allegations from a conservative news site to his agency's Inspector General for possible criminal investigation, as per reports. On November 12th, the Gateway Pundit published an article alleging U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell and improperly listed his Washington, D.C. home as his principal residence on mortgage paperwork. Swalwell, a critic of President Donald Trump who represents a Northern California district, said he is a permanent resident of California, according to loan documents. However, Swalwell had visited his home in Washington as his principal residence. The allegation against Swalwell echoes those Pulte has leveled against several prominent Democrats and public officials, including New York Attorney General Letitia James, U.S. Senator Adam Schiff of California, and Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook. All have come under sharp fire from Trump. A congressional watchdog this month said it will open a probe to examine if Pulte abused his authority as he circumvented the FHFA's traditional investigative process. Now we stay in U.S. The U.S. Space Development Agency, which is a part of the Space Force, has reached agreements with 4 defense suppliers to build a total of 72 satellites, which will collectively cost about $3.5 billion. The agency has shared details on the 4 suppliers, which include Lockheed Martin, L3Harris Technologies, Northrop Grumman, and Rocket Lab USA. According to the space agency, each of the suppliers will provide 18 space vehicles each, and they have already signed fixed-price contracts. These satellites will be used for missile warning, tracking, and regulating systems related to defense, and they are expected to be launched into Earth's lower orbit in 2029. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.